Amen. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff. I'm the youth and missions pastor here at Revision, and this morning Mike asked me to kick off this brand new series we're doing called The Best Summer Ever. And so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be taking a look at a few of the things that we can be doing to make this the best summer ever. And I could not be more excited to be standing up here with you this morning. Actually, you know what? Can I just be honest with you all for a second? That was not exactly the truth. I probably could be more excited. And not about the series. Super excited about the series, excited about what's coming in the next few weeks. But the fact that I'm the one standing up here right now with kind of the nervous sweats, I could definitely be a little bit more excited. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love being a pastor. I love all the behind-the-scenes work I get to do. I love doing ministry. I love working with youth. I love leading missions teams. I love writing and creating. All of that stuff fires me up, but when it comes to speaking in front of people, it's just not on my list of favorite things to do. You can just put it that way. And so when Mike asked me a few weeks ago if I wanted to speak this summer, I said, pass. And he said, how about June 24th? And so this morning, I'm standing before you asking, if you know of any job openings. Love to connect with you after the service. We'll figure something out, but no, I'm just kidding. It's really not that bad. I am excited to be here this morning. I just get a little bit nervous, like I think a lot of us would. And it's funny, I'm not really sure where all of this nervousness stems from. If you heard me speak last time, you might remember the story I told where I, in my choir days, went and I spilled root beer all over my pants. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can go listen to that sermon online and hear that fun story. But I remember being a part of this choir and getting up in front of people, no problem. Like we'd go on month-long tours every year, do dozens of concerts. We'd sing in front of hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of people at a time, and it didn't bother me one bit. I was a soloist. I'd get up there, I'd sing away all by myself, la, 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 and no problem. Even better than that, if you can imagine. But something happened along the way where I developed some sort of fear of speaking in front of people. And all of this fear and this discomfort, it hit its crescendo. It hit its pinnacle moment in my 11th grade English class, where I had to give a 2-minute speech on domestic alcohol abuse. And I got to pick the topic. That wasn't the issue. It was a topic that means a lot to me, but the idea of speaking for 2 whole minutes in front of my class absolutely terrified me. And so either way, I had to do it. So I'm getting the speech all ready, and again, I love writing. That's not really the hard part, but eventually it's time for the speeches to begin. And so the teacher, she begins the class by saying, does anybody volunteer to go first? And my hands could not have been closer to the ground at this moment. I was kind of going with the method, maybe if I just don't volunteer, then she'll forget about me, won't have to give my speech. Didn't work. And so on the second and final day of speeches, it was my turn to go. So I get up there, and I cannot describe to you in words the amount of fear that I had rushing through my body. I could barely move. And let me remind you, this is high school English class. It's not like I'm giving a TED Talk or addressing the nation. Like I have to give a 2-minute speech in front of a bunch of people that I know. All I really had to do, I could have gotten up there, just put my head down, focused in, just read the thing, and probably gotten a B. That's all I had to do. But no, I didn't do that. I got up there and I froze. And I'm not just talking like a couple seconds. I got up there and I froze for a solid minute. Just. Yeah, if you think that was uncomfortable, that was 10 seconds. Imagine an entire minute of standing up there in silence of your classroom. And eventually the teacher, she snapped me out of it. She said, Jeff, you can start whenever you'd like. Which was her polite way of saying, get out with it, just put us out of our misery, please. And while she was saying this, my level of panic, it kind of elevated to this moment where I was seeing these black and white spots just flashing all around me, and I started blacking out. Again, high school, 2-minute speech. But somehow I managed to begin. I started reading my speech, and somehow I managed to make it through it. My face felt like it was 1,000 degrees, probably bright red. My hands were cold and clammy, so I just kept touching my face like they were little ice packs, cooling myself off, and got these spots flashing all around me. Keep in mind, at this point, everybody in the class is just laughing hysterically at, not with me, and I just remember mumbling through my speech, finishing, and then during the obligatory applause, seeing the entire class look at each other like, did you just see what I just saw? Like, did that really just happen? And the answer is yes, that did just happen. And yes, I do still have friends who remind me of that crowning achievement to this day, and it's super awesome of them. It's really nice. But the reason I'm telling you this story this morning is not just so I can stand up here and sound super cool. I'm actually, as I was preparing for this message, I was thinking about this high school speech. I was thinking about my legs trembling and the black spots, and I just thought how, if you would have asked me in that moment, if you would have told me I was going to become a pastor, I would have told you that you were out of your mind. I would have said that there's no way, never, ever, ever, never, never, ever, never am I going to be a pastor. There's just not a chance. And so that's what I want to talk about this morning, this idea that we are often so quick to say no, and so quick to say, no, I'm never doing that we waste the gifts that God has given us and we miss out on what he wants to do in our lives because our first reaction in the face of the slightest discomfort is to say, nope, no way, never, it's not going to happen. And so we kind of put up these walls in our pursuit of comfort that block us off from the potential that God has placed in us. And we hide ourselves because we fear that if we're truly seen, that we'll be judged, we'll be made fun of, we'll be uncomfortable. The list goes on. And so this morning, I kind of want to flip the script. And I want us to realize that that when we do say no and never to what God has for us, we're limiting his ability to develop our gifts and to make a difference through us because we're too afraid of the imaginary consequences. See, God gave you incredible and unique gifts, and he wants you to use those gifts to impact the people around you, to impact this church, to impact this city, your job, your school. There's all sorts of this God-given potential just coursing through your veins left untouched. But this morning, I'm hoping that somehow I can encourage you to tap into that potential rather than leaving it closed off and stamped with a never. And so now I thought it'd be kind of fun to take you through some of the nevers that I placed, just kind of, on my list of nevers throughout the years. One I already told you. I can very vividly remember saying, I'm never going to be a pastor. I love the church, love what they're doing, what they got going on, but I can never do that. Another one was, I'm never living in Iowa. I remember that possibility coming up years ago and just thinking, no, I will die before I live in Iowa. I remember doing my internship with Mike up in Minnesota and with a high school ministry and seeing the middle school ministry and all those students that were crazy and thinking, never going to do middle school ministry, just going to stick with high schoolers. That'll be great. I remember taking classes in college with a former children's pastor, hearing all of her stories and thinking, nope, no way, I could never be a children's pastor. And I also remember Mike, after he said that he was coming to plant Revision Church, I realized, well, dang it, now I got to find a job. So I did some work with FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. They do these sports camps. And so I helped with a few of those, but then I found out that if you want to work for them full time, you have to fundraise your salary. And I thought, there's no way I'm ever going to do that. I'd much rather just work at a church that could pay me. That makes a lot more sense. And if you know me at all, you might be laughing because as it turns out, I'm currently a pastor in Iowa, working with high school and middle school students who has done our children's ministry for the last year and a half, and I have to fundraise my salary to work here. And it's just crazy to look back at all of these nevers in my life and see how, after I got over the discomfort and decided to trust God, that those fears and difficulties that were hidden in the never, they quickly became my greatest joys, my greatest accomplishments, and it's allowed me to grow in ways that I never would have if I had held on to those nevers. Which is why I've officially decided in front of you and everyone right here, right now, that I am never, in my entire life, ever going to move to Hawaii. It's never going to happen. I won't do it. Never. You can't even make me try, Lord. We'll see how that works out. But the question we're asking during this series is, how can you make this the best summer ever? And I think one of the best ways that we can do that is to let God open doors in your life that you've closed off. And that's my challenge for us all this morning, to let God open doors in your life that you've closed off. And so if you have your Bibles with you, you can open them up to Matthew 5. If you don't have them, don't worry, the words will be on the screen. You can also pull them up on the app. There's some sermon notes and the verses there. If you don't own a Bible, please take one from our Next Steps table. We've got a bunch of them, different age groups. We'd love to give you one to take home and read. But this section of Scripture, it's called the Sermon on the Mount, and it's probably one of Jesus' most famous sermons and teachings. And right towards the beginning, just a little ways in, Jesus begins to talk about salt and light. And I'm going to pick it up in verse 14, read through verse 16, where Jesus says this: "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Show of hands, who in here has ever used a light before? It was dark, you needed a light, turned one on, use it. Okay, most of us, good. So you know then that when you use a light, you're using it to light up the things around you. You don't just turn on a flashlight and then immediately throw it into the toilet. It doesn't make any sense for a lot of reasons. And this is what Jesus is saying here. You don't light a lamp and hide it. You light up the darkness so that you and the people around you can see. And as Christians, we've been given a light. Because of the life and death and resurrection of Jesus and the work of the Holy Spirit, we have this light living in us that is also meant to be living through us. See, when you have a light, you don't keep it hidden. That doesn't make any sense. You let your light shine before others so that they may see how you live. They see the joy that you live with, the boldness and courage you live with, the faith that you live with. Let your light shine so that others may see that light shining in and through you, pointing them towards Jesus and glorifying the Father in heaven. And that's verse 16. In the same way, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify the Father in heaven. Right here, Jesus gives us a vision for our lives that if we truly believe in him and what he says, we will be a people, we will be a church that shines bright for the world around us to see. He calls us to live this life boldly, to live just open, and to live for God and the people around us. He says, you are the light of the world. Like me living through you, that is the light of this world. And yet time and time again, we try to control our circumstances and seek comfort. And it's really easy to want to control the light and where it can shine, just blocking off different areas of our lives and different people around us from experiencing God through us, and all really because it's a little hard. Like, I'm fine being a light, but I'm not going to shine there. Like, God, use me to make a difference in this world. Lord, the great creator, provider, Alpha, Omega, Jehovah Jireh. Like, God, just use me. But here's a list of my top 5 use me places. You can see I highlighted Hawaii. But I'm also open to Bermuda, California, Venice, and maybe even Denver, Colorado Springs. I just love the mountains. But again, you just send me where you need me, just kind of as long as I don't have to change that much. Also, probably going to need a good job to provide for my new list of hobbies in these amazing places. And you know what, while we're at it, I'd love a waterfront property. Now, I'm not picky. It can be ocean or lake, but don't tell me now. I don't want to ruin the surprise. Whew, all right. Yeah, look at all these things I'm willing to do for you, God. I am pretty amazing. But just remember, don't send me here or here or here. I won't do this, and I don't want to do that. I'm a little too good for that, and this one, it's just not in my gifting. So I don't want to do that one. Yeah, sound good? You got it? Sweet, back to Netflix. All right. And this is kind of how we live. And this whole week as I've been writing this message, I can't help but kind of beat myself up for how often I do this. How often I fall into this trap, like, God, use me, shape me, mold me, use the gifts that you've given me to make a difference in this world and the community around me. But God, could we just hold off till tomorrow? I'm kind of tired. God, I have so much to do this week. I've got 3 different jobs that I'm trying to scramble around, and plus I'm trying to have some sort of a social life. God, I just might be too busy to serve and help the people around me for now. Like someday, but just not right now. And God, I've just been so overwhelmed lately. I just need a day to decompress, like some good old-fashioned me time, some time to wind down. I'll serve you tomorrow when I'm good and rested. And these are actual excuses that I've used with God. I'm guilty of believing the lie that ease on this side of discomfort is better than the promised joy and life change on the other side of it. See, we know what God promises us if we love him and if we serve the people around us, and yet we believe the lie that hiding our lamp under a bowl is better than helping others see. And how many of us are guilty of that this morning? So when I was younger, my best friend Tyler, he lived right next door to me. It was great. It was super easy. We could just go knock on each other's front doors to play. We played all sorts of games in the backyard. We ran around, rode bikes, played sports. It was great. And Tyler and I, we were super competitive. I'll race you to that tree, or my team's better than your team, which, by the way, it was not. He was a Wild fan. I'm a Blackhawks fan. I was right. But we were always competing. We'd always try to outsmart each other with the latest random facts that we had learned. And I remember this one time, Tyler and I, we were outside doing something, and he came up to me with this new kind of swagger, and he pulled his arm and was like, "Hey, Jeff, guess what I just learned? Did you know that the farthest a human can see with their eye is 1 mile?" And I sat there and I thought about it for a second. I said, all right, you know what? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A mile's a long way. All right, and I didn't have any way to fact check this guy. I just had to believe him because I would have had to go home, kick my mom off the internet, let the internet and let it dial up, hop on Alta Vista before I could see if he was telling the truth. And I didn't think we had the right encyclopedia to give me the answers I needed either. So I just had to take Tyler at his word that the furthest a human could see with their eye is 1 mile. I believed it for a while, actually. And I remember this one night where I was outside, I was looking up at the night sky, you can see the moon and the stars, and I just had this thought, like, that's got to be further than a mile. And it was in that moment that I realized that the human eye can definitely see further than a mile, and that my friend Tyler was a liar. And as silly as it was for me to believe this lie, I think it's even sillier to believe the lie that comfort and ease is better than growth and development. Because I think deep down we know that hiding our light and holding on to our nevers keeps us from experiencing a more rewarding and fulfilling life. I think every person in this room can think of a time where they stepped out of their comfort zone and they said yes to a new adventure, or did something that they had never done before, and that on the other side of that discomfort was excitement, and there was growth, and there was an opportunity to share that with others. And so why is it that we keep saying never? Why are we so quick to say no? I can say this confidently. When you let go of your nevers, you put yourself in the passenger seat to the incredible things that God is doing in your life. When you let your light shine before others, rather than closing it off, you begin to see the world around you differently. You begin to see the gifts that God has given you. You begin to see how you can be challenged. You begin to see that there's more to life than this American dream comfort contest, but that this life is meant to serve God and the people around you. And when you're able to grasp onto that idea, not only will you feel more fulfilled, but you will make so much more of an impact on the people around you than if you were to just stick with never. And I want to take a second here. I want to explain something because I'm not up here. I'm not just challenging you to say yes all the time. This isn't a big volunteer push where I'll stand up here and say, we need people to volunteer out here and here and here. And then you just say, well, dang it. Jeff told me I had to, so I guess I'll do it. Like, that's just draining. It'll stretch you too thin, and it's overall a bad idea. To make this summer the best summer ever, I'm not just asking you to say yes, but I'm hoping that you will ask, how can I help? Because it's not just about filling a role or checking a box and dragging yourself to do something because you know you're supposed to. It's about seeing how your specific gifts can be used in a space where you thrive and the people around you thrive. And so what is the never that you're holding on to? It's like, I'm never serving in children's ministry. They are insane. Fair enough. But how rewarding is it and exciting is it to see the smile on a kid's face when that lesson clicks for the first time? Like, you could be a part of that and make a difference in the next generation if you didn't say never. Or maybe your never is inviting that person or that family to church. Like, oh, I can never do that. And what if they say no? But you could literally change their life and rewrite eternity. I mean, that's my story. I remember sitting in a homeroom class and this kid coming up and inviting me to church that I didn't really know, and now he's my best friend today. And if he didn't do that, I would have never gone to church, and I certainly wouldn't be here doing this. Or maybe your never is, I can never go on that missions trip. I mean, it's too hot, there's bugs everywhere, unlike Iowa, right? Oh, wait. And I'm just thinking of this amazing team that this last February said yes. They said, how can I help? And went to Haiti, got to meet some of the most incredible people in the world, helped build a home for a family of 9 who was living in an 8-foot by 10-foot shack that could fit on this stage that is now able to live in a home. And we got to finish up painting a few buildings where men and women are going to learn how to sew to help provide for their families, where young teen girls are going to learn about purity and self-worth in Christian community, and where families in the neighborhood are now going to have close access to clean running water. And this team, they said, how can I help? And God said, go here. And your nevers, they can look like a lot of different things, like, I can never let my kids do that. I can never go there. I can never lead that. I can never fill in the blank. And our reasons why, they're even worse. Like, I'm not creative. I'm not gifted. I'm not helpful. This really, it just isn't the best time. And you begin to believe these lies that limit you to seeing only 1 mile in front of you, when in reality, God has such a bigger vision for you and what you can do, because he's the one who knit you together. Did you know that on a dark night, a human eye can see the flicker of a single candle from up to 30 miles away? It's true, I checked. Tyler wasn't even close. And what a true illustration it is that we were made to see for miles and miles, and yet we believe this lie that we can only see for one. So I can't really do that much. And these lies that we believe, they limit our opportunity for change in the world around us. Jesus calls us to ask, how can we help? How can I help and say yes to that challenge so that we can be a light standing on a hill for the world around us to see for the glory of God? If I were to have held on to my nevers, there's no way that I'd be standing here right now. Like I'd be the furthest away from this place that I could be. Like I don't want to work for a church plant. That sounds hard. I can never fundraise. I just want to work at a church that could pay me so I can get rid of this mountain of student loans that I've got going on. I'll never work in middle school ministry. I'll never do children's ministry. I'll never live in Iowa. I'll never be super handsome and buff. Okay, maybe I made that last one up and was secretly hoping it would just magically come true. That's unfortunate. All right, but I look back on all of these things that I said never to, and I think about how different things would be if I had just held on to those and hadn't realized that I was an idiot and decided to let God use me and the gifts he's given me in the way that he wants. As he's doing that, it has developed me so much. As a leader, it's stretched me, it's given me more self-confidence, and it's given me more joy and fulfillment than I ever could have dreamt for. But looking back on all of these things makes me wonder, what nevers might I be holding on to right now? Like what fears am I letting take over the potential for God to work through me? And it's a hard question to ask, but it is a good one to ask and to answer honestly. And so what is it for you? What nevers are you holding on to? See, God, he wants to use you to do incredible things. He's gifted you in a unique way to be his hands and feet, but if you keep saying never, the only never that will hold true is you'll never be able to see the potential God has placed in you because you let your fear and comfort keep you from shining before others. See, I want us to be a church that doesn't say, that's just not my thing, but instead says, all right, God, like what do you have for me? What challenge is ahead of me, big or small? I want you to use me to make a difference right where I am. No closed doors, no nevers. I'm yours. Let's go. See, if we can be a church that does that, there's no stopping the love of Jesus from reaching the dark corners of our neighborhoods, of our offices, of our homes, of our communities, of our schools, of our cities, of our state. Let's be a church that lets our light shine so that others can be in the light. Will you pray with me? Dear God, I just pray that as we go out this week that we can take this to heart. That we can kind of have this self-assessment where we see the nevers that we're holding on to. We can be honest with ourselves and say, okay, yeah, I'm probably closing off this part of my life to you, God, and just stand before God, arms wide open, and say, I'm yours. Use me how you want me, develop me how you want me, challenge me through the gifts that you've given me, Lord. And I pray that each one of us can do that going forward. That you can challenge us and we would say yes to whatever it is you have for us. In Jesus' name, amen.